that are there. But those who fly into the desert to live a life of monastic life, usually the devil attacks them using the thoughts. So there is a relationship again between what you think and what you feel. And this is where we are. Today, we look at one of the, we can call him one of the great scholars called Viktor Frankl, who is the founder of logotherapy. We call Viktor Frankl the founder of logotherapy, which is a form of psychotherapy that he developed after surviving Nazi concentration camps back in the 1940s. You know, in the history in the 1940s, there was the World War II, which began in 1939 and ended almost up to, it went up to 1945. Now, this World War II targeted mostly the Jews, and most of the Jews were put in the concentration camps, where somebody was a doctor like Viktor Frankl, but now he was no longer in the hospital working. He was now somebody in the concentration camp. And therefore he realized that those people who were put in the concentration camp had very many difficulties and problems of finding meaning in their life. And therefore in his logotherapy, he, after what he experienced in the camps, he developed a theory that we are going to discuss today, a theory that through search for meaning and purpose in life, it is where individuals can be able to endure hardships and sufferings. We know that it also happened in our country, Kenya, back in the 52 when emergency was declared up to 1963, where most of the people were put into the concentration camps also. And in this case, we know even our founding father, President Kenyatta, Karomba, and Ochieng Oneko, most of them were put in the concentration camps. While the reality of prison and the reality of a concentration camp is not the same with the reality of life outside there. So sometimes you are put in the same room with the same people, no freedom to go out, to buy a newspaper, nothing. And therefore, in normal circumstances, these have a lot of psychological torture, psychological feelings. So I would like you to imagine Viktor Frankl in that situation, being a good doctor, because he was born in 1905 and died in 1987, most recently. So he was born in Vienna in Austria. And in his theory, when he was learning as a young man, he was really influenced by Sigmund Freud and Alfred Adler, and he was a medical doctor because he had a medical degree for the University of Vienna, which he attained his medical degree in 1930. But now you realize from 1940 to 1942, being a director of the neurological department of the hospital Conv, he was taken into the concentration camp. That is that in 1942 he was put into the Nazi concentration camp along with his wife, along with his parents and other family members. And this will have a great impact in Frank. Because sometimes when you are suffering alone and you know your parents and your children and your wife and your friends are okay, that gives you a lot of hope. But when you are suffering with them, it reaches a time that you lose even the hope that you could have, because these are the sources of your hope and now they are suffering with you. So he spent time in 4 camps, including Auschwitz, which was the worst concentration camp. So in 1945, after the World War, he returned to Vienna, and then that is where he published a book on his theories based on his records and his observation during his life in the camps. So that is why he wrote the book, Man's Search for Meaning. And this book, as we talk, has been published in 24 languages. So as a professor who have stopped work in the university and has been taken into the concentration camp, he was calm. Then he came out of the concentration camp a new person with a lot of new experiences. And he did not want to use the time in the concentration camp as a hindrance to his life. He was observant. He looked at people. He saw the suffering, and he analyzed the people And he came to believe that the human beings are motivated by something called a will to meaning, which is a desire that you have to have meaning in your life. And then he argued that life can have meaning even in the most miserable circumstances, and that the motivation for living comes from finding that meaning. And therefore, he realized in the concentration camp that those people who lost faith, those people who lost meaning in their life, are those people who did not continue searching for their meaning. Meaning, there's a possibility that you are in the same problems, but somebody is looking for the solution. Somebody is trying to look, what would be the meaning of this? And when I come out of this, what should I do? This is a different scenario. Another one, continue analyzing the problems. You realize in life there are times you sit with people who are negative in life, and once they start now explaining the negativities that they have experienced in their lives, slowly, slowly you also find your life becoming negative and negative. But the other times you sit with people who are problems. Problems, everybody has problems, but the way they look at these problems is a way that suggests they are every day looking for a solution. And therefore, according to Frankl, everything can be taken from a man. Anything can be taken from a woman or a man. But one thing, the last of the human freedom, is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. You can be in a great problem. You can be actually even in a prison. You can be actually in great poverty. But the freedom of your attitude is with you. Nobody can force you to have an attitude. The attitude comes from you. And this opinion of Frankl was based on his experiences of suffering and his attitude of finding meaning through suffering. You remember he was in the concentration camp. And in this way, Frankl believed that when we can no longer change a situation, sometimes you realize this situation is here, is permanent, or it is not them who needed a change. It is him who needed to change. And this is what happens sometimes. We are in a situation when we can no longer change the situation, but we are struggling instead of changing ourselves. And these are the fundamentals of Victor Frankl. Logos, we know what I introduced today is logotherapy. Logos is the Greek word for meaning in this case, and logotherapy involves helping somebody find personal meaning in life. And therefore, that is why he wrote the book which he called An Overview of the Theory of Man's Search for Meaning. An overview of the theory of man's search for meaning. And this situation of Victor Frankl being in the concentration camp, and where there is no meaning in life because you are just a prisoner and you don't know when it's going to end, he realized that you cannot be forced to have an attitude. The emotions, you can't be forced to have the emotions. You yourself have to look for meaning in your life. And then when we come from break now, we shall start looking at this overview of the theory of meaning, the theory of the search of meaning. If somebody tells you, I'm searching for meaning in life, that is highly philosophical. It is all we should do every day. What is the meaning of my life? Why am I here? What is my life worth of? Why did I wake up? What is the meaning of all this? Let us meet after the break and be able to analyze his overview on the theory of meaning. Thank you very much.
Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, hail our life and sweetness and our hope. To you do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To you do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious Advocate, your eyes of mercy toward us, and after this our exile, show unto us the blessed fruit of your womb, Jesus, O merciful, O loving, O sweet Virgin Mary. Amen.
To get Hail Holy Queen as your Skiza tune, send Skiza followed by code 738-10258 and send it to 811.
Our masses will start from 6 o'clock in the evening, East African time.
Capuchin TV, a Catholic broadcasting ministry. Tunafuraha kukujulisha kwamba misa takatifu ya kila siku ni kama ifuatavyo: saa 1 kamili asubuhi, saa 7:30 mchana, saa 12 jioni na saa 2:30 usiku.
Go forth, the mass is ended.
Thanks be to God.
Mpenzi mtazamaji, tunakuenzi na kukudhamini.
Endelea kutazama Capuchin TV.
Liturujia Katoliki, sakramenti, kuungama, ekaristi, sala, nyimbo, neno la Mungu, ibada takatifu. Jiunge nasi kila siku ya Jumapili saa 1:30 usiku na Jumatatu saa 4 asubuhi kwa liturujia Katoliki na Padre Boniface Mukwe.
So thank you very much. We are looking at Viktor Frankl and the theory of meaning, the man's search for meaning, which you have found that it is a basic requirement for each and every person to ask himself or herself, what is my meaning? What is the meaning of my life? What is the meaning of all this? In his logotherapy, there are 6 basic assumptions. We may be able to analyze all of them, or we may not be able to finish them today. The first assumption is that the human person has body, mind, and spirit. So a human being, you or me, is a being. It's an entity that has the body, which we call in Greek soma, mind, which is the psyche, and spirit, which is the nous. So for Frankl, he argued that we have a body and mind, but the spirit is what we are, all our essence is the spirit. So Frankl believed that life has meaning in all circumstances, even in the most miserable circumstances. And this means that even when situations seem objectively terrible, there is a higher level of order that involves meaning. And therefore, our body is there, our mind is there, and our spirit is there. And our spirit controls everything that we are talking about. And therefore, for Frankl, even if your life is in such a total, terrible situation, you can still be happy, you can still be calm. You only need to develop a way of finding a balance in all this. And therefore, in our body, mind, and spirit, we have to continue searching for meaning. Let's say you are in a situation where you don't have a lot of money or you don't have any money at all. Now, this situation, you can start mourning about it, and you lose even the energy to look for work. I found somebody who wanted some job somewhere, but we all, thank God we gave him. And I asked him, now, what are you doing at the moment, since you say you don't have any work? He said, no, I'm not jobless. I have a lot of work. And at the moment, my work is looking for work. So he has some work, although he is not paid, he is not idle. He doesn't sit in a situation whereby I'm lost. I have no power, I have no energy, I have no way of going ahead. You are the one to decide, this is the situation, but how am I going to turn this situation into something that can also be of a great benefit to my life? So the second situation is that humans have will to meaning. So logotherapy proposes that humans have will to meaning, which means that meaning is our primary motivation for living and acting, and it allows us to endure pain and suffering. This is viewed as differing from the will to achieve power and pleasure. The problem is that we all have the will for life. We all have the will for meaning in life. But some people find meaning by controlling the others. Some try to control the situation. Some try to have a lot of money so that they can control the system. But Franklin found that in each and every person, whether he is a drunkard, whether he is somebody in a different situation of misery, they are all trying to look for meaning in life. And you can even look at the people who are in the streets, even the people we call mad. Sometimes you can realize they have some little order in them. They have a bag, although there is a lot of things in this bag, but there is some little order, meaning that this person has been trying to look for a kind of meaning in his life. And this is what Franklin found. If you look for meaning outside, that is outside yourself, as we said last time when we discussed St. Augustine, the philosopher, who said, "O Lord, I know I have looked for you in everything. Little did I know that you are within me. And the more I searched for you outside myself, the more I continued losing you. And therefore, good life meaning is always found within us. And this with the help of God, who actually know our purpose here on earth." Franklin also find that there is freedom to find meaning. He argued that in all circumstances, individuals have the freedom to access that will to find meaning. There is the desire within you to find meaning in life, but you must act. This is based on his experience of pain and suffering, because in the concentration camp, he saw many people even dying, but he chose his attitude in a situation that he could not change. Remember, this is the place still that Maximilian Kolbe, a conventual Franciscan, became a saint. Because as many people are suffering, the rule and the condition was one. If one prisoner leaves the concentration camp, 10 has to die. At one time, one prisoner, as usual, ran away. And the policemen, the guards, decided to kill 10 people. As they were caught, one of the person was crying, "Oh, my wife, oh, my children, I will never find you again." But Maximilian Kolbe, who was a conventual Franciscan also, with other friars in the concentration camps, he felt that this man is looking for a deep meaning in life. But also Maximilian had reached a point where he said, also I have meaning in life in finding God. And therefore, Maximilian decided to be a martyr. Maximilian Kolbe told the man, "Please, you can go back and I will agree to die." And this is how Maximilian Kolbe died. He was put in a camp that through starvation, but for many days he had not died until they had to give him a poison. Now he is a saint. He found meaning. And the other person died recently, I think. I'm not very sure on this, but he also found meaning in life. So, for Franklin, we have the freedom to find meaning. And this freedom and the desire is within us. It is innate. It is within us. But we have to decide ourselves to continue finding for this meaning. Then, he said that individuals are unique. And Franklin believed that every individual is unique and irreplaceable. My dear brothers and sisters, any day somebody tried to compare you with another person, tell them, I am who I am. I am unique. wonderfully created, given all the importance by God. And God does not look at me as a group with others. I am a person created in his own image and likeness. So you are unique and you are irreplaceable. As much as many people think you can be irreplaced, you are irreplaceable, you are unique. So, logothelarpy in practice according to Franklin. He argued that in all circumstances, individuals have freedom to access that will to find meaning. It is innate. We say innate, I-N-N-A-T-E. It is within you. And this is based on his experience of pain and suffering, and he realized that you have a choice. You can suffer in suffering, but you can also find joy and peace also in the midst of the sufferings. And therefore, at last, Franklin gave 3 techniques, and these are the techniques that are used in logothelarpy, which can help somebody to find meaning in life. The first one is called de-reflection. De-reflection, from the word reflection. And what does this mean? De-reflection is aimed at helping us or someone to focus away from themselves a bit, and now focus towards the people, so that you become more whole and less time be absorbed about the problems of how to reach a goal. Sometimes when people are in problems, deep problems, they tend to over-focus on themselves, to over-focus on their weaknesses, to over-focus on their poverty. Now, de-reflection means you change the reflection a bit from yourself to the situation, to the life, even to others. And that is why Mother Teresa said, each and every person is so rich that he can assist another one. And there is no person who is so rich that he or she does not need any assistance. We have it in ourselves. We are able to reflect some of our problems, and also in the same time, as Maximilian Kolbe was in the concentration camp, but even being in the concentration camp, he listened to confessions. He counseled people. Maximilian Kolbe even died for someone. Franklin was the same. He used what he had as a neurosurgeon in order to assist the people in the prison. He was also a prisoner. And even here in Kenya, I've visited prisons many times, both in Nairobi and in Murang'a diocese. And I have seen that in the prison you find somebody who is already a pastor ministering to the other prisoners. Somebody is a prisoner but he is teaching the other prisoners. Somebody is a prisoner but he is talking to other prisoners. Because this person is saying, the prison walls are not going to imprison me. I'm also in prison, but I am free as a person. The other thing that Franklin suggested is paradoxical intention. What is paradoxical intention? This is a simple technique that helps a person to wish some of the things that you have feared most. And this was suggested for use in the case of people with a lot of phobias and people who are ridiculed. You know, sometimes if people say you appear fearful, instead of not looking foolish, sometimes act it out. Act paradoxically. Be paradoxical. As the people think you fear most the dogs, pretend that you fear the dogs most also, so that they laugh at you together with yourselves. Because sometimes we try to focus on showing the people, no, I'm not even fearing anything. And this time you are in a great fear. And the last part is what we call in philosophy Socratic Dialogue. You know, Socratic Dialogue would be used in this type of logothelarpy as a tool to help a person to process his own knowledge and have self-discovery through his or her own words. Socratic method is also called peripatetic method. What Socrates was doing, the philosopher, he could ask you a question, what is justice? Then you give him the answers, and from your answers he still asks you questions for you to clarify your answers, and from the clarification, he asks you new questions to clarify that which you have said. So, the knowledge according to Socratic method, peripatetic method we call it, because they were walking as they are discussing, is not that I give you the knowledge, is that I help you to bring the knowledge out of you. And this is what we call midwifery, from the word midwife. The midwife does not give you a child. The child is with the lady who is expectant. What the midwife only does is to remove the child from the mother. And this is now Socratic peripatetic method, whereby the knowledge is with you. And in this way, next week, we shall see how we can use these three methods as we look for another person who have talked about on the theory of meaning, how we can use this in order to understand ourselves better and in order to live a good and happy life. Thank you very much. See you next time, next week, same place.
Ni sakramenti yenye kumpa Mkristo Roho Mtakatifu na ukamilifu wa mapaji yake 7, kumfanya Mkristo mkamilifu na kumfanya shahidi hodari wa Yesu Kristo mpaka kufa.
Kupata kipaimara kama Skiza Tune yako, tuma neno Skiza likifuatwa na nambari 738100272 kwa 811.
Alisema